And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Pug Thomson. 100%. And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
Well, hello to everyone, and yes, I am in a different location because my old man is sick and in the hospital. So I am doing this from a faraway location in California. I am on the West Coast. I know you wish you were. No, you don't. You're in Texas. You want to be there. And my man Josh Thompson and I are here to talk about, well, one fight that took place that we're going to go over and some that are not going to take place. So what's happening, brother? You doing good?
Doing good, man.
Yeah.
How's everything there on the West Coast?
It is what it is. You know, life in the end is a mean bastard, you know, and so you just got to take it one step at a time.
It's a very precious thing that we just don't seem to realize until everything gets closer to the end.
Yes, sir. You got that right.
I would like to say something that would make everything better, but I just know that it never does, you know, but you know what?
Just the thought, my man.
I got a lot of love for you, my man.
Just the thought.
And the whole family.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, hey, look, there's obviously a lot to talk about.
Yeah. You know, the first thing we got to talk about. The first thing, let's just put this out there right now. I just want to say to everyone, I was fucking wrong. I was so wrong. In my mind, there was, I said, I love Francis. He is one of my favorite guys. He's just a beautiful person inside and out. He's a fantastic MMA fighter, but man, he's going against the very best there is in Tyson Fury. And in his first pro fight, that's just not going to be good. He's going to have a hard time touching him. Well, I just want to say once again to everyone, I was wrong. Absolutely wrong. I enjoyed the fuck out of that fight because I was rooting for Francis the whole time. And I couldn't believe that, you know, from one round to the next to the third round where he knocked him down. And then I'm screaming at him, get back to the goddamn neutral corner. Get to the It's like he's taking his time there. And then I find out why and I go, okay, it was good. I understand. Yeah. Everything, man. We got to talk about that fight because you got to admit, you want to talk about one of the most compelling situations in combat sports that has occurred because no one ever thought that if it went to a decision that Francis Ngannou would be right there and possibly winning a fight against Tyson Fury in his first pro boxing match.
Well, John, before we even get into the fight though, okay, let's go back to the very beginning. The very beginning is very simple.
Let's do that.
He took and every media person that's out there right now talking like as if they knew the end result is just ridiculous. Well, go back and no, John.
No,
a lot of these,
I agree with you.
It's just a knock on boxing.
Just go.
This is this.
You just
this
go,
is that.
baby.
Yeah, like and everyone's just knocking. They were kind of like knocking him, you know, in terms of, man, he could have made a big mistake. Sure, he's banking on himself. And I even myself came out and said, like, if you don't have the contract in hand with the boxer, with one of those promoters, and hey, ready to sign as soon as your contract is up, I think you're making a mistake. Yeah. Well, in that scenario, it all worked out. I was leaning more towards, I thought he was going to fight someone like Wilder or he was going to fight somebody like Anthony Joshua. I didn't think that Tyson Fury was at the top. He was at the top of the list in terms of the champion, but
he wasn't an unattainable
he wasn't the one that I was looking at that was going to entertain it. I was thinking more of Anthony Joshua and Wilder for sure is what I was thinking. Two heavy hitters, you know, both of them, you know, kind of similar in size. One, you know, I know that Ngannou's a big guy, but he's not a Tyson Fury like 275, 285.
No, let's hold on. We'll get into this with the weight. Yeah. Ngannou weighed in at 272. Fury weighed in at 277 and Fury was way too heavy. Yeah. It's one of his problems.
True. But when we go back and look at all those things with all the media that came out, and there was a lot of bagging on him. He messed up. Remember, it was he dropped the ball. The ship has sailed. All this stuff was coming out, and he just sat patiently. He waited. Then he inks the deal with the PFL, and I really believe that the deal with the PFL kind of catapulted him into saying, "Hey, we're okay with allowing you to fight. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and get the deal done with MMA." And I believe somewhere in that contract, his contract says that he doesn't need to fight in MMA for 18 months.
Yeah.
So he has 18 months to go ahead and pursue his boxing career. Then remember they had the face-off, I think it was him and Wilder, correct? At a PFL. I believe it was Francis Ngannou and Wilder. They did a face-off.
They had Jon Jones and him facing off.
Oh, okay. No. There was. Can you look that up, Dave? I believe it was Francis Ngannou and Wilder that faced off.
Really?
I don't remember
PFL.
That one.
I do remember
the Jon Jones
yeah.
and the Ngannou. I remember that one as well. Yeah. But there was a Wilder and a Francis Ngannou, I believe. Like they had faced off at an event somewhere. But regardless, when I look at this, there was talk about it. I thought there was a face-off with the two of them.
No, it does not appear so.
Okay, maybe I was wrong.
I think it was.
If you're going to really look at this, this comes back to when Francis Ngannou made the decision of, all right, I'm fighting out my contract. He did that. Then he goes and he tries to get the UFC to get into a boxing deal. He tries to bring them with it. And they did not want to do it. And that's their right. They don't have to do it. But after he decided, okay, I'm gone, I'm leaving, I'm going to go do this boxing thing and, I'll sign with somebody else, and let's be honest, Dana came out and doing his normal media scrum thing that, people are asking him questions. And what did he say? He said that this man at this point in his career did not want to fight the very best. Well, obviously that was not true.
Yeah.
Because if he went and he had a boxing match with Tyson Fury, he couldn't have picked anyone any better. So competition against the very best is absolutely not something that Francis Ngannou was worried about. And the fact of the matter is, he also wasn't worried about money. He went there to win. And that's the one thing that, man, I look at him and I go, dude, big balls, big brass balls, because you took on the hardest bite there could be, and you just kept chomping at it, breaking it down, and you went and did something that it doesn't matter if it shows on the official, sheet that he wins or loses. He won. Josh, he won. He won so big because now Francis Ngannou, he can write his own ticket wherever he wants. The WBC and Marcelo Suleiman, he's already going to rank him as a top 10 heavyweight boxer. He can fight anybody he wants, and he can fight for as much money. And Eddie Hearn is already talking about wanting to put him against Joshua. And I don't know if that's a great fight for Joshua. Now that I'm looking at it, it's like, let me tell you something. He just proved he is, he's a large man. He's always, we've always talked about it. When you stand next to Francis, he's bigger than 6'4". Okay. He's about 6'6". And he is got long arms. He is a fucking just Adonis god as far as he has no body fat on him. And I'll tell you what, I was so impressed because I thought he was getting a little tired there, a couple of rounds. And next round he'd come out and he would be throwing. And I'm like, God damn, I'll tell you what, super impressive because and it was one of the things that we had talked about is, man, he's going to be burning energy just because it's just the atmosphere and who he's fighting. And it's impossible not to. God damn, he had gas, man. He went, and I know he was tired, but so was Fury, and dude, to go those 10 rounds, just freaking remarkable.
Absolutely. I think when I look back at how it all came about with him in terms of leaving, people doubting him, and then him just patiently making deals on the side with the PFL deal, then inking this deal, and then people saying it's just a money grab. And like you said, which it is a money grab, but in some ways, reality of it is, in some ways it is. But in the reality of it all is that he didn't look at it like I think a lot of the MMA fighters that leave MMA organizations to go and do, whether it's boxing or whatever, bare knuckle boxing, whatever it is to make that next step level of money for them. Yeah. They usually go there to say, hey, this is a money grab. It's the most I've ever made. Doesn't matter whether it doesn't matter. I've done everything I've already done in my career. They have looked at it that way. Whereas he didn't look at it. It didn't seem like he looked at it that way. He took it as, if I do well in this fight, and like I said, and I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit here, is I told everybody, I said, look, in the reality of this fight happening, he possesses the power. If he drops Tyson Fury it changes his life forever.
Yep.
Changes
You did say that.
And that's look. I didn't say whether he would win. I was like, it's a tough climb no matter what I'm winning.
Yeah.
Okay, but I said in the first 3 rounds, which luckily, people got to stop sleeping on my predictions here. I said he's got up until the 3 rounds to get him out of there. Which in the 3rd round he drops him, and then as the fight goes on, I agreed with you. You texted me and you said, "Hey, I believe it looks like he's getting tired." And I said, "Yeah, he was breathing out of the mouth." I watched him walk back to the corner. His mouth was wide open. But then in the 7th, like kind of the 7th, 8th round, he kind of perked back up a little bit.
Which tells you he was in shape. He was ready to go.
Yeah. And look, what it is also too is we're used to 5 minutes straight with a minute rest or a minute 15 after the time we get back in the cage and get going. This is very similar to that. They get their minute, but then also too is that it's every 3 minutes. So there's that 2 extra minutes. It's like that 2 extra pounds of cutting weight. And it kills you. That extra 2 minutes in an MMA fight, that's the part you're like, damn, man, isn't this thing over already? But here he got a minute break every time, and he was in shape. He was ready to go. Well, I will say this, though, is where I was wrong was I thought after the 3rd, 4th round that Tyson would start picking him apart, start snapping the jab in his face, start making it look like target practice. That was 1. 2 is, I also want to give, and I don't know if he deserves this. I believe he does. Coaching him is Mike Tyson. I thought if Ngannou was going to have a chance, he was going to have to hit him with some big shots, but he'd have to like barrage on him. He'd have to like come at him hard with 4 and 5 punch combinations to try to get one in there that would land and put him down. He didn't do that. He stayed on the outside. He picked up, kind of just parried away his jabs, kind of just waited for his moment, and he threw 2, sometimes 3s, and he landed those shots.
But he used an old Mike Tyson trick. He did. You remember?
Explain to me.
Tyson used to frame. He would take an arm and he would frame it against his opponent.
Oh yeah,
and push and either come over the top or come up with an uppercut. And you watch Ngannou, he did it multiple times, and I was like, all right, there you go, man. You learn something, and you're right. I give credit to Mike Tyson. I give credit to Dewey Cooper. I give credit to Eric Nixick. These guys all worked with him. They all believed in him. They all went there saying, hey, man, we're here to win. And you listen to Dewey Cooper when he was going against John Fury in the mouthing of the media. And, it's like, oh, you're going to know who I am and stuff, right? And it's like, because he said, my guy's going to beat your guy. And it's like, they believed. And God damn it. I wish I believed more. My whole thing was I didn't want to see Francis get hurt. I didn't want to see him get knocked out. And that was a big thing. If he lost, I expected him to lose. I'll tell you what, I'd have to go back. I've only watched it, live the one time, but I had it so close. And okay, I'm okay if you go 95-94 for Fury, and I'm okay if you go 95-94 for Ngannou. The one judge, get the fuck out of here. You gave him all but 2 rounds. Shut up. Yeah. Okay. Or whatever. 97-93 or something. Like what? It was. Yeah. Shut up.
It was something like that. Yeah.
But I think look at this is going to change the landscape because everything we have when it comes to boxing and MMA is most of the time old guys or guys that are out of their prime or things like that. You got 2 guys here, both of them in their prime, and they went at it, and you had the result you had and stuff. And Francis Ngannou, you put one on the board for MMA with that performance. Because you did it against a guy that no one thought you'd be able to do that with. God damn. I love you. Big balls, brother. Way to go.
No, I agree. I guess there's so many different directions I want to go in this conversation, John, because there's a lot more to talk about.
Oh, yes, there is.
So there's the point where, look, we want to make sure that Francis gets all the props. Look, going out on a limb, leaving the UFC. Yep. Getting his deal done with the PFL, and then also banking on himself.
Give it to the PFL.
You have to give it to the PFL.
Give it up to the PFL. They believed in him. They let him do it. They knew. This is not a good thing for us. If he goes out there and gets starched. But you know what? They said, hey, we believe in you. Good for them. Way to go.
Absolutely. And they were willing to take the chance. Yep. Look, he came up short. But I also look at the way you were talking about the judge's decision. The judge's decision. I said, I had it leaning a little bit more towards Francis, but I'm also not mad that it went that it went the other way.
I'm biased.
Yeah, that's true.
Normally I always root for Tyson Fury, But
No, you are biased.
yeah, well, in that one, I definitely was. I was going for Francis. So I'm like, I can see why maybe I didn't look it around right or something like that. But it was close. It was super close.
It was close.
And let's be honest. And here's where I really lean towards Francis is who was the guy that was going forward in that fight? And because look at ring generalship is part of boxing. It's not like ring control in MMA. Totally different. Ring generalship in boxing is, do you control where the fight takes place? Well, who controlled where the fight took place most of the time?
Yeah, that was Francis.
It was Francis. Take a look at their faces after the fight. How many marks do you see on Francis? And he even got hit. Look, he even got hit with elbows.
Yeah, that was nasty in round 6.
That was a good elbow. Not a mark.
That's some gypsy shit there.
No, that's just not a mark. And look at Tyson. He had marks all over his face. He had lumps and bumps. I'm just saying that if you look at it, Francis landed the harder shots throughout the fight. You know, volume-wise, it was close. So it's not like you can sit there and say, oh, but the volume overtook it. No, it did not.
No.
It did not.
But that's where I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say conspiracy theorists, but there's a lot of talk and conversation that goes on. Look, Francis deserves his dues. He deserved what he came out there, and I said, look, if he gets a knockdown in this fight at all, it changes his career.
Yes, you did.
It changes, and we're going to see this happen.
Here, all right, let's just put this to rest right now. Josh, you said that.
I know.
That's it. It's over. Don't take credit anymore.
Look, I mean, all of our listeners, guys, start hitting me up in the comments, okay? Give me a little fan clap and some pat on the backs, okay? Start putting some respect on my name. Jeez, man, I can predict this stuff. Let me just tell you. But I look at it that way. But then I sat on here as well, and I said, as soon as he booked that other fight, and they made such a big deal about him fighting Usyk, and Usyk being there in the second row, right behind Ronaldo. It puts that added pressure. And I said on this last week's show, I feel like he's using this camp for Ngannou to get himself ready for his real camp against Usyk. And the way you saw him fight, and not taking anything away from Francis, the way you saw him fight, the output that he normally has wasn't there. Why? Now, it could have been because Francis' power. Could have been because of that.
It's also because he was 277 pounds.
Yes, that because you weren't fully in camp, or you take a look him.
When Tyson Fury fights his best, he's somewhere around 250.
Got it. Yeah. But so when I put that in the equation, did Tyson train for the full 5-6 weeks or 7-8 weeks, whatever it is? Doesn't seem like it. His feet were definitely not as fast as they normally are.
Nope.
His wasn't popping that jab out like he normally does. He's usually using that thing as like just a constant weapon in your face, making you pay, just snapping it out there. And then he hit Francis, I believe, in the second round with a nice 1-2 combination right off the bat. Boom, boom. I was like, okay, that's very nice, and see more of that. But the output in which he fought the whole 10 rounds wasn't what the normal output that he has for some of his other fights that I've seen in the past. Like I said, I'm not taking anything away from Francis, but we got a fighter that was thrown off by how hard Francis hit.
Yep.
And probably how strong he was.
Physically strong he was.
Exactly.
Did you know at the very beginning in the first round, Fury purposely goes into a clinch and he tries to muscle him around and it doesn't work. And I was like, hey dude, you're not going to out grapple him. Okay. No. He's too used to it. Don't even try. Because he was trying to put weight on himself. Never worked against Francis. And Francis, like I said, in those situations, many times controlled it, framed out, and, took a shot or let the ref come in. But he did a great job in the clinch against Fury. And I think Fury thought he was going to be able to manipulate him in that clinch. And it is part of boxing.
Well, I mean, outside of Wilder, the guys that he has fought, they haven't been as tall as him.
No.
So he's used to being able to hang on their head. He's used to being able to kind of like bring them down to his waist level, make him carry the weight. And then as they get tired, he starts piecing them up with the jab in the face, using his footwork to get out of line of sight, and then hitting them again. He's good at, like you said, manipulating the ring awareness and then making them pay for it. He does a great job of that. Yeah. Stays and then turns them, puts their back to the ropes, and then capitalizes on that. He does a great job of stepping off, pushing you to the ropes, and then making you pay, and then getting back to the center of the ring.
Yep.
in this fight, he just wasn't able to move Francis around. He wasn't able to get Francis. In the beginning, Francis was kind of reaching a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But then as the second round, end of the second, into the third, he settled down. And that's when you saw him start finding his mark. He realized, look, he's going to come in. When he comes in, just be patient. He just did a great job. And I sat on here last weekend and said, you know, you've seen him spar a lot. I've never seen him spar inside the gym. I've seen video clips. I've seen, you know, some of the things that he's done inside the gym. But we're talking about practice.
That's practice.
That shit it doesn't equate to anything when you get in there. He's someone that obviously came out with the game plan. He stuck with the game plan. When people are laser focused at the top of their division, they're almost impossible to beat. They're almost impossible to beat. And I feel like, you know, the guys that have been there for a while that lose, they never really kind of get back to it, only based on the fact because I've been there, I've kind of done it. You know, now they're looking for other challenges. But with Francis, he's still on that. I'm the UFC champ.
Yep.
I'm the UFC. I've never lost.
Yeah.
Now this fight definitely didn't feel like he lost.
No.
And I just fought the best boxer in the world, went 10 rounds with him, or the best heavyweight boxer in the world, and just went 10 rounds with him. He's like, and a lot of arguably, I should have beat him, or I could have beat him, you know, or you know, the guy, it was a split decision. First off, it was a split decision. Yeah. I mean or I did beat him. So when I'm looking at what people at home are saying, what the media is saying, all of these things, all this did was open up the floodgates for MMA guys now to come even more, and and those fighters to start saying, "Hey UFC, I'm going to fight out my contract, see what I can get over there." That to me, though, John, I'm going to be honest, huge mistake. Okay. Huge mistake for a lot of these fighters. Look, this was done, and I've said this, and John, you know I'm going to go this direction, is this was done because he is a heavyweight.
That's right.
Do not think that some of you guys are going to go down there and be able to fight with Bud Crawford. You're going to get your ass kicked. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to step in there with Canelo and do well. This was done at the heavyweight division where they just know at one shot could put my lights out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but in the lighter weight classes, it doesn't happen like that. These boxers will put your lights out, but for MMA guys, it's not the same. It's not the same at all. And so I hope that these guys that are in the 170 and the 160 something, and they're thinking they're going to come off and start fighting in boxing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. No, guys, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. This worked for him. This worked for Ngannou. He's got the puncher's power. I could see somebody like a Jon Jones. I'm going to go over here now after I just saw that. John, I'm saying down the line. Not right now. Yeah, not right now.
Would not be a smart decision.
It wouldn't be a smart decision, but we also, we kind of said the same thing about Francis. Sure, we'd like to see him box. Cool. But none of us sat here, and said, if he fought Tyson Fury, it'd be a split decision.
No.
Get out of here. None of us. Nobody did.
Take a look at the odds. You saw the odds. Okay, yeah. The odds at the start of that fight.
I lost $100.
Okay, but the odds at the start of that fight were what?
1,300.
1,300 for Tyson Fury. Minus 1,300, I think it was 850 or something for plus 850 for Ngannou. At the end of the 9th round, coming out in the 10th round, did you see what the odds were?
Mm-hmm.
Odds
minus what? Minus 400?
Odds were in Ngannou's favor, meaning that the people that were watching thought he was winning the fight.
Interesting.
Odds makers.
Then I didn't see those odds. Yeah. I didn't see those odds. I saw the odds for the rematch then. I think it was minus 400 for Fury and plus 300 for
the last one. In fact, they
even
pointed them out and they said, "Oh my God, look at the odds as they started. They had them up where they started, and look at them now." And they had Francis Ngannou was actually the guy in the minus. I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I didn't see those. What I was saying is I saw the rematch odds that were released today, and I think it was still it was minus 400 Tyson Fury plus 300 I think Francis.
Okay,
somewhere in there. But I mean, when I bet on this fight, it was Francis. Francis was a plus 1,300.
Yeah.
So like 2 weeks ago, he was a plus 1,300.
Wow.
Yep. So I put $100 down. I was like, yeah, let's see what happens. I got.
Came close.
But let's get into some conspiracy theories.
In that position, you really want to go and find out who was that boxing judge that gave that.
Yeah, right. Son of a gun. Let's get into the conspiracy theorist side of this, though. They announced the Usyk fight. The Usyk fight this is taking place in the same exact arena.
Yes.
And
okay, let's talk about that because it is
Okay.
the same one. Tyson Fury was pissed. Tyson Fury said that information that I signed to fight Usyk was not supposed to come out until this fight was over. Because I told them, it doesn't matter. This is the only fight that I'm concerned with right now. Once this fight is over, now you can put it out. And they went and put it out beforehand. So Tyson Fury talked about it, saying that was never supposed to happen. I do not disrespect Francis Ngannou in any way. I know that he is the person that is going to be trying to punch me in the face. He's the person that I'm worried about right now. I will get past Francis Ngannou, and then I'll deal with Alexander Usyk. So, he didn't want it to get out. Those kind of things. Here's the difference. Those things happen in boxing where they don't happen in MMA. In MMA, the promoters, the promotions run things so much that they have everything kind of planned out where they're going to go and what they want. And so that you get a fight, you have your fight. They're not thinking about, oh, we're going to sign you for another fight before this one takes place, because they don't know if you're going to get damaged or anything like that. They're like, no, once the fight takes place and there's another fight, a week away and you don't, you get a fast fight, you get no damage. They might go, hey, we got a guy dropping out. Do you want this? And bring you in that way. But yeah, no, but there is a difference in boxing. Boxing does have where you'll see a champion sign multiple fights, one after the other, knowing that, hey, I got to get past this first one to get to the second one. They do it. So not that horrible a thing, but a little disrespectful. That's the way we all look at it.
But like, this is, I think, where it goes though, is the conspiracy theorists will say that Saudi Arabia put a lot of money into building the venue, getting it for this fight and the next one. Huh? It's brand new. There's a lot of things, and now they have money to burn. We all know that, but it just goes, well, hey, if this fight if Francis would have lost or Francis would have won, that Usyk fight would have been squashed.
Toast.
Would have been toast. Done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, John, you've got to be thinking to yourself, we're in Saudi Arabia right now, and we're going, yeah, like, did the judges do it right? Did they?
Did they? I'm being honest, I don't think so. I thought it was super close, but I thought if you look at everything, I thought Francis Ngannou walked out of there as a winner. Now, once again, I think he walked out as a winner no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, it's his pro boxing record is 0-1 with a big freaking asterisk, because look at who he fought, look at how he fought, and look at what happened in that fight. And most people are going, yeah, I'm not too sure Tyson Fury won that fight. So one guy continues his undefeated record, but people are going to look at it and go, you got beat by an MMA guy in a 10-round fight. Now, I look at some of the things that happen that I think are hysterical in it, though, is the attitude that Francis had when, Tyson Fury, during the stare down, after the stare down, they touch gloves, and Tyson Fury tells him, time to go to school. And that pissed him off. He goes, motherfucker. And I was like,
so good.
That's the attitude you need, man. That's why you are who you are, because it's like, look, I don't care how good someone is. There's many guys that'll hear that knowing what that guy has done and go, shit.
Well, Francis told him after he dropped him, he's like, I'm the one taking you to school.
Yeah, no, he told him, he goes, you're a shitty professor.
Yeah, teacher. Yeah. So, I mean, it was, I was driving while I was watching it. I shouldn't be saying that publicly, but I was driving while I was watching it.
I don't know how you do that, because I'm sitting there going crazy, man. I'm having fun.
It was nuts. It was nuts. And I was in shock. I was like, holy shit. I said, doesn't matter what happens from here on out.
No.
His life has changed.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna pick who he wants next, and they're gonna want it. They're gonna want to prove, because then if they beat him, then they're able to probably get that next fight with Tyson. So I don't know, John. It's because it was his PFL. Apparently, his contract says he's got 18 months to box, so he has more time now. And I think with them, they understand how much publicity this is giving him.
And them.
Yeah, and them. But then
it's good publicity.
That's going to bring him right back to the PFL, and everyone's gonna be like, okay, well, let's see what he can do with MMA gloves on then.
Okay.
You know, for all the casuals that hadn't been watching him in the UFC, that were then all of a sudden turned on and watched him against Tyson Fury, then this fight happened. Everyone's going to go now that was like, because you and I talked about it. I said, hey, how many pay-per-view buys do you think it's going to get? I had friends tell me like probably only like 300. And I was like, well, what about the hardcore boxing fans? And they're like, look, hardcore boxing fans don't give a shit about MMA guys.
True.
They're like, this is like watching a Jake Paul fight. Jake Paul doesn't acquire. They don't acquire. They're not getting the hardcore boxing fans to watch them fight. They're getting the YouTube fans to watch them fight.
Yeah.
And so when you're watching Tyson Fury versus Ngannou, they're getting all the MMA fans. They're not really getting the boxing fans. Maybe 100,000, maybe 200,000 at the most. So when they were talking numbers, they were saying like that thing maybe will only do about 400, 450. You and I talked 600.
But it didn't.
You and
matter.
I were saying about 6.
Yeah, I said 5. I thought somewhere between 450 and 5, but it doesn't matter. Who was this thing financed by?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Do you think? And this
trillionaires.
And this okay. And this is why I sit here and say it doesn't matter. Josh, take a look at the people. They didn't sell. Obviously, they sold the arena. They had basically 2 arenas, one outside, one inside. But look at the fighters that were over there. Now, those fighters, not one of them paid for their flight, which was all first class. Okay? Not one of them didn't make a nice, sizable check for being there. Okay? You know that's true. Yeah. They all got treated first class. And what is that telling you? They don't care about the money.
No,
they care about, hey, look at who's here, look at what we're putting on, and look at our event. And they were winners. They were winners throughout. No matter what. Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they won in that entire event. They're
building, I think it's a 12-mile long mirror city. It's all enclosed in the middle of the desert.
I know.
And I'm like, dude, you guys just have nothing to do with your money. You don't even know what to do. You're just thinking shit up right now.
Yeah, we're going to build a city, and it's mile wide by 12 miles long.
Yeah, it's all enclosed.
I know.
It's all mirrored. It's got a full jungle on the inside.
Yeah, it's cool.
Like, what the?
They can do it.
Yeah, if you can do it. I don't know. There was, let's get into like some takeaways. Okay. You and I were texting during this whole thing. John, the one thing that I want to say, look, I enjoyed the main event. I did. But please, if you're going to throw another show, if you're going to throw another boxing show, please don't make it an hour and 20 minutes between the co-main event and the main event. I don't care about all the stuff. And I get it, but I felt like I was watching the fucking Grammys.
Well, and again, here's what people need to figure out as far as what happens with, you have this pay-per-view, and they came out and they said that, the main event will walk basically at this time, Eastern time, U.S. And I think that was 4:45 to 5 o'clock, something like that. Well, the first fight was a first round fight. The second fight was a first round fight. Yeah. The third fight was a first round fight. So they're like, they go from being ready on their sheets with mathematical equations saying, okay, here's where we're at. We're 30 minutes, heavy or 30 minutes light. Well, they got light real fast and they were in trouble. And it is one of the problems when you have those type of things that come out saying they are going to walk at this time. You've got to adjust because you really put it in a position where people don't like your broadcast based upon it's taking too long. They're losing interest. They want to see the fight, but they're pulling their, hair out, having to watch bullshit after bullshit. And you're making, Tim Bradley say this and then come back and say it in a different way, 20 minutes later. And I was kind of like telling you, I said, stand by, this is what you got to get set for.
Well, John, you and I, this is what we do. So when we have these when fights go down in Bellator and they go down fast, you're like, okay, well, now we got to feel a little bit. And so when you see like where John and I get brought together in a 2-box, it's because like the fights ended a little earlier than they were supposed to. So John, they're like, hey, can you and John talk about the main event a little bit more in depth? And then we're like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So they put us in a 2-box, and maybe sometimes Amanda comes in and sometimes she doesn't, but we talk about that, or we talk about maybe a fight that happened earlier. you're really just trying to get time to go by, but about something that fans would be interested in so you don't lose them. And what you found was they brought in, and look, when you're doing something over there in Saudi Arabia or Dubai or Abu Dhabi or whatever, they're bringing in the top level of talent. Doesn't matter. They're going to have this music artist. They're going to have these fighters there. They're going to have all this. They're bringing in the best of the best.
True.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
But you also got to the point where it was just too much. Yeah. It was too much because
no one cared.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And let me read this to you real quick. I saw something that Shab had posted, and he goes, "This is the problem with boxing. Low-level production, pay-per-view started at 11 a.m., main event, which won't walk until 3 p.m. He's on the West Coast, by the way. Hour of bullshit filler, live music before main event. We don't need to be sold on the fight. We just paid $80 for this shit. Please, just give us the goddamn fight." Look, if you're a pay-per-view, we've already paid for it. We know what we're getting. Yeah. Like we're in. We're balls deep in you right now. Okay? Let me just get to the fight. I get it. Let's talk about the fight. Let's break it down. Let's more in depth. Let's maybe have an extended conversation about how Francis can get it done, not just his power, not just this, or how Tyson can get it done, or what could happen if Tyson doesn't get it done. Let's talk about the what ifs afterwards. All of those things could have been talked about, kind of leaving it to fill that gap a little bit, but they filled it. It was literally like, I think, an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this, as the behind the scenes guys. Is there a reason for the fighters that would make sense? Like, are Tyson and Francis kind of on a schedule where they're expecting these things as well, and so that everything they're doing is according to?
Because they were told schedule? This is the time that you're going to walk, so they know exactly before they leave their hotel. Obviously, they're the ones kind of in control of how long they want to be there before their fight. But when they leave they know the time, and they know how much time it's going to take to get their hands wrapped, how much time they want.
Yeah.
Each one has different times for warming up. And as soon as they get done with the warm up, trust me, they want to walk.
Yeah.
And so they've been told, and they scheduled it around what they were told.
Yeah, I mean, like when I would show up for fights, I'd show up. And normally, like I was either co-main or main, or it was like kind of in that little mix there. So I would show up the fight before the main card started, and I'd get there, jump rope before I even got my hands wrapped. As soon as I got done jumping rope for about 10, 15 minutes, I'd shadow box for about 5, 10 minutes. I'd get my hands wrapped, put all my sweatsuits on, get warm, stay warm. As soon as the hands were wrapped, put the gloves on and start rolling, grappling. And then that usually led me into like, okay, that was a light flow grappling, light mitt work, whatever it was. Then I waited till right before my fight was supposed to go. Right before the fight, right when the fight was fighting before me, usually the fight, I'd hit hard mitts.
Exactly.
I'd take downs,
because you got somewhere in the area of 8 to 20 minutes.
Yep.
So then, is that the hour and a half then that we're waiting on? Or
how would you
combat that, John?
Where they made the mistake in this one is they told them when they were going to walk. See, in MMA, like they normally don't tell you you're going to walk at this time. They say, look, as the pace of the fights go, you go. Now, don't get me wrong. They still try to get it to where it's kind of normal for you to get a certain amount of time. But also, too, they've got guys like Burt Watson in the back for Bellator. He used to work for the UFC, probably the best in the game. Yep. In terms of keeping the fighters notified. Hey, okay, you're on deck. You need to make sure you're fully wrapped. You got 30 minutes. You got 15 minutes. You know kind of where you're at. It takes that person in the back. We've got MJ. We've got Burt, people that work for Bellator, and they really break it down. They tell the fighters, hey, you guys are going to be up here in about 15 minutes. Make sure you got a sweat going. Make sure you got your thing going, whatever it is you do for warm-ups. Be ready to go. And so there's a structure in the back that's being run, and that's all walkie-talkie to the front, to the cage side manager, who's saying, okay, look, we have that goes up to the guy who's running the music, and then they all coordinate with each other. Okay, next guy's on deck, fights in the cage.
There's a lot that goes into it. That's how it all works.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's 250 employees, just cage side and just in the back, just employees. That's not counting the people that unload the cage, put the cage away, put up all the monitors, put up the speakers. That's not even counting them. There's 250 employees that are just all around making sure the show runs properly, and maybe even more, depending on the organization and depending on where you're at in the venue.
Yeah.
So, but this was one of those things where you could just see they were struggling. They were struggling to keep this thing going, to keep it as to where the fighters could walk out in their proper time, giving them the time to get their hands wrapped, giving them the time to, hit mitts, get ready, warm up, whatever it is, whatever their ritual is in the back, to give those fighters that time. So
is that based on like money then? Is that based on like, hey, we're paying you guys?
No.
Is that like the talent's decision then that like, hey, we're gonna walk you at 5, whatever it was?
They have no control over that.
So then, are you guys saying the promotion or the whoever's or putting it on the event should not make that commitment so that they can move things along if they need to?
Yeah, and this is, let's just be honest about it. This is when, how many times have you done this? What's your production company? What's the community? I can tell you, the UFC, when I started with them, had a specific communication. Then it became CONCOM, and that was Al Connell and Bruce Connell were in charge of CONCOM. And they did such a good job of being able to manipulate time and do things that, they made the show flow great. And, when the Fertittas took it over, all of a sudden, they were going to get rid of CONCOM. And then all of a sudden they realized, maybe we shouldn't. Mm-hmm. They're still there. They do a phenomenal job. They've had the same guys for a long time. A couple guys go in and out, but you get used to being able to take those things. And the UFC's had this problem at time. Bellator's had this problem at time. Mm-hmm. The PFL, I watch them. They have this problem at time where you get fights that go so fast that all of a sudden you are in trouble. And especially it happens when you have a hard out. That hard out is either, hey, don't go over this limit, but you need to make it to this limit too. And that's where it becomes, sometimes it can become difficult and you're trying to fill time. And that's what they were doing.
Yeah, you'll notice back in the old days, remember when the UFC used to pay for their pay-per-views? They had to be off air at like 10 o'clock. If they went over, they charged them a certain amount of money.
Another hour of time. Yeah,
and so with
they
Bellator,
shut them off.
right? Yeah, or they shut them. Exactly. They've done that a couple times. What you run into, though, is that some of the, like with Bellator, with Showtime, what it was since they own the company, they just said, hey, we need you to kind of be off by 11 o'clock. If you're not off by 11, the hard out is going to be 11:15. And if it depends, if they're followed by like some sort of other event or some other like thing that had to run at a certain time, they would kind of worked against them. It backfired. Like there was some heads were being taken.
Swatted around.
Yes, yeah, someone was getting in trouble. But then you also run the other way. When you guys watch UFC, you guys got to pay attention. When you have Megan O'Leary standing like near the entrance or on the cage, look, she's prepared probably for every fight.
Yep.
In terms of the main card, she's prepared, and maybe even probably the top 4 or 5 in the prelims, prepared to talk about each one of those fights. But the ones you see her talk about is because the fight before probably finished early or 2 fights before that finished early. Okay. And then, or there's a fighter they really are high on. They want to make sure that gets in there for people to start following this fighter. But there's a lot of times where she does a hit and it doesn't make it, or they just don't have her do it because they're crunched for time. Yeah. She's got to be ready to act on the fly. That's what makes her, that's what is so spectacular, what Megan O'Leary does, and other girls like Jen Brown, or the females like Jen Brown and Amanda Guetta, our girl. And so what they can do so fast and on the fly is very impressive. Very impressive.
Not easy to do.
It's not.
Nope.
It's not. I'm up there like a stuttering Stanley sometimes. No, but you know what I mean? So I guess what I was looking at, I said, there's a couple takeaways from me. Great job by Francis, banking on yourself, doing everything that you said you wanted to do. You wanted to fight boxing, you did. You fucking balled out. You showed out for everybody. You let everyone know that your power is there, your abilities, your athleticism. You're capable of doing whatever it is you put your mind to. No doubt. Got a great deal done with the PFL. Looking forward to seeing him step in the cage for the PFL. Sky's the limit for what he is doing right now. I think that he takes another boxing match here, probably within the next 6 months. Cashes out on that. He's got to pick carefully, though.
The fact that the WBC is already ranking him in the top 10 tells you everything. They went and said, hey, we're going to put him in the top 10 in the heavyweights because that dude can fight.
Yeah.
Hello.
I agree.
Which only puts him in a position to make money.
Absolutely. And once he hit that knockdown, it changed everything he can do in terms of who he can ask for. I can see him fighting someone like an Anthony Joshua.
He could ask for anybody in the top bracket of the heavyweight division. He could ask for Anthony Joshua. He could ask for Deontay Wilder. He could ask for Alexander Usyk. He could ask for any of them, and it's a legitimate request.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so now, and then where does he go? He does one more boxing match, see what happens from there, and then he maybe trickles himself over to, over to the PFL for his MMA fight and see what happens over there. This guy's going to make a lot of money, and all because he believed in himself and his abilities. And on top of that, this goes a long ways. I said, look at what Mike Tyson was able to do. You did what was bad. You said the other two guys. So you said Eric Nixick and you said Dewey Cooper.
Yep.
Both those guys as well. I was just talking about the boxing portion of it all, but those two guys are the ones that for years have been right there with him, getting him to that level.
Yep.
Getting him ready for his MMA fights and getting him to believe that he could box at the highest level. Tyson was just the added bonus, and him learning this, the little tiny little things, like you said, the frame away, all of those things make a huge difference when you're fighting someone on the level of a Tyson Fury.
Yeah, little tricks.
I'm looking forward to seeing what happens for him next in Francis. And I just, when you look back and all the things that Dana said, let's be honest, Dana, that's his job. I saw Ariel posted something about, back then when people did, listen to this bullshit, has nothing to do with bullshit.
No, it
his
has to
job
do with being
is
a promoter.
It has to, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And you've got, You've got other promoters already coming out saying, hey, I want him to fight Anthony Joshua, because they're doing what they're doing. They're doing like, hey, I want to get my guy a fight and make a ton of money. That's what promoters do.
A promoter's got to amplify what is his and take and negate everybody else's stuff that looks good, is shiny, and everybody wants to see and say, oh, it's really not that good. That's a promoter's job. He's Barnum Bailey. And look, Dana tried to sign him. Francis had his reasons for not signing with the UFC, and that's all good. I don't like when he sits there and tries to say, oh, he's afraid. We talked about that back then. We said, look, he don't fear anybody, okay? That's bullshit. All right? But I don't blame Dana for what he's putting out. That's his job, and when you take a look at it, we've had a ton of promoters throughout boxing history. We now have had a lot of promoters, in MMA. Look no one's put on more fights than Dana White. No one. Okay? He has proved he is one hell of a promoter. And he continues to be that. And trust me, if given the opportunity to have Francis back, do you think he'd take him? Yeah, he would. No matter what he said. No matter what he said, he would take him because he knows, hey, I can sell that guy. And he could.
Absolutely. There'd be no reason not to take him back. I mean,
it's going to be the same thing as Dana came out saying, we're basically his big line is always, we're out of the Francis Ngannou business. Okay. But if given the ability and everyone was, shaking hands and we're all good, he would. And that's his job. That's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. Look, he took Randy Couture back. Yeah. He took BJ Penn back.
That's the whole point.
He's taking these guys. He's taking them all back. He'll take them back.
Of course.
It doesn't matter. Look, Rumble Johnson, he took him back too.
Yep.
All you have to do is go out there, win a fight or two, and all of a sudden you're looking nice and shiny again. You're that with the Randy situation. It was like literally they were battling it out forever how long, and finally it was like, look, let's just get the deal done where I come back and you pay me a little more.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We got the deal done.
There you go.
I'm getting tired. I'm wasting my years. I want to come back and fight. Okay, let's make it happen. All right, they did. Dana will do what's best for his organization and what's best for Dana White.
That's right.
So when I see like media guys going, hey, do you remember when this actually, when people actually believed this BS back in January? I don't think anyone believes that Dana feels that way. Dana's got to say that for his company.
But here's the problem. And this is where I think, this is where you'll get, like the Ariel Helwani, I think is one to put that out. And it's his ability to get at Dana because now you said this and now, and you look and you go, yeah, he said it. And the one thing that I would like to see more of is those people in positions that are journalists and media people. Well, when you're there and he's answering that question, don't just accept it.
Yeah.
Push forward and say, well, excuse me. Are you saying that, you will never, ever have Francis Ngannou back if he wanted to come back and he won. Let's say he goes out and he wins the boxing and he wins everything and comes back, doesn't have one loss. You wouldn't want him? That's what I would at least like to see the media do. They don't. They just accepted it for the answer that it is, and okay.
Well, John, it goes back to what I said when I used one misword. The media ran with it, right? When I said, "Hey, you guys should be promoting this
Yes,
fight coming up, whatever it was." When everyone knew that, I just said you guys should be covering it.
Yeah.
That being said, that's what I was talking about. Why is the media not pushing? Stop trying to be in the back of Dana's pocket. Stop trying to be there, like ready for him. Don't always be on his side.
Yeah.
You can't do. You've got to shine more light on this type of stuff.
Be neutral.
These fighters, look, there was all this conversation. Like when fighters leave the UFC, not all of them need to leave either. Just all of them have to fight out their they fight out their contract. You know what they're doing. They're putting you on ice until basically you starve yourself, so they can try to get you to resign and paint you in the corner, and just make you resign under the pressure of you not making any money or having enough money to pay your bills. They know what they're doing. They did the same thing with me. They did it a little bit with Benson. They've done it with other guys that I know.
Okay, here's what it comes down to again. When you take a look and you say, let's go back to you. Let's go back to Francis. Let's go back to a lot of guys where you fight out your contract. If you fight out your contract, that is allowing you, after a certain amount of time, because the company that you're with does have, usually in the contract, a specific number of days where you can negotiate with nobody else but them. And once that time period is over, now you can go and negotiate with anybody you want. Mm-hmm. Then they can always try to come back and match it depending upon what's in your contract possibly or something like that. But when they sit there and they'll say, well, we released them. And then the media puts out, they've been released by the UFC. They weren't released.
Yeah. Okay.
They fought out their contract. Mm-hmm. Don't sit there and because someone says a word and you know it's wrong, let me just mimic it in my headline. Mm-hmm. It's the dumbest thing. Why don't you sit there and say, well, they said they were released, but actually they fought out their contract.
Yeah.
They decided to go somewhere else. Okay.
Those are the things that need to be talked about, because I think the more that the press does and the media does say it that way, you're going to see more fighters going, okay, well, hey, maybe I should just fight out my contract and kind of see where the money goes. Because that's what's going to lead to more of these situations and scenario. Which, what's crazy to me, though, is that there will be some success stories during all this. And the UFC has the potential to get them back.
Sure.
I'll give you an example. Nate Diaz. He's going to fight one more time probably between now and, say, March.
Yes,
I can guarantee it.
Yes,
I can guarantee it.
I can guarantee it,
all
too.
right? Yeah.
But I'm not media, so I'm not putting it out.
Yeah, we're not putting it out there.
But it's a fight.
He's going to fight between now and March. Once that fight is done, I could see him going back to the UFC, which I believe he will.
Yeah.
And he'll do the third Conor fight.
Okay, great.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that third Conor fight was going to be at UFC 300. I wouldn't be surprised.
I agree.
So he'll get that fight done, either January or February, somewhere in there, in his outside. And he'll go back to the UFC. He'll go right back into fighting probably for UFC 300 or whatever, maybe right shortly after that. Who knows? But I think it'll happen right after, and he will get that third Conor fight. That will be the fight that I think he gets close to finishing his career on. These guys, if you play your cards right and do things like this, you go out, you have a couple little fights out here right now where you can make some money in these other organizations that are out there. You can make more money than you're making, fight for the UFC. Go out there, make your money, play your cards right, and come back. Leave yourself a little skin on the bone to get back in the game. You just got to play it right. So I think this opens up the doors for that to happen.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I agree with you.
And to think that Francis wouldn't go back, I think he would.
I think he should.
We'll see where he's at age-wise by the time. No, he won't go back now. I don't think Francis will go back now. He's got his deal with the PFL.
No.
He's locked in.
Yes. He's 37 years of age right now. You could say that he's got possibly 5 to 6 years of good fights left.
I think till 45.
Okay, possibly. He's in great shape.
Heavyweights can fight longer.
That's right. And I put it to 43. So 45, yeah. Absolutely, he could.
With the power he has.
Yeah. Well, that's not going to ever change. He's got that.
It won't go away. What was your overall, at the end of all this, what was your overall takeaway?
my overall takeaway when I looked at this is, I love when someone has the compassion to look at a situation and say, I'm not completely happy here. I'm going to gamble on myself and I'm going to go do what makes me happy. And that's what Francis Ngannou did. I love him for doing it. I love the fact that Tyson Fury took the challenge. Don't think that he gave it as much emphasis as he needed to. I think he absolutely overlooked Francis, as I think all of us did to a point, compared to going into a boxing, his first pro boxing match against him. Overall, if I'm going to, the big takeaway is believe in yourself. Believe in yourself and look at what you can do. Because for a guy who, let's say 8 months ago, people were sitting there going, well, what's going on, man? Oh, it's done. Yeah. Look where he's sitting now.
There was a lot of people that came out and said that, what was the terminology they said? Like, he dropped the bag. He dropped the bag. Whatever it was.
Yeah, dropped the bag. Because, Dana was coming out saying that he had, he offered him. And he offered him a good, a great,
a great contract.
He
said the highest paying heavyweight.
Yeah. But it was, it's not exactly what, was put out. I've learned that. So it was good. And yes, it would, in one fight, it would have made him the highest paid heavyweight. Doesn't mean it would have happened in another fight. But it was a good contract. But it wasn't what made Francis happy. He wanted more, and it wasn't that he wanted more money. He wanted certain things out of the UFC that the UFC was not willing to do. And again, that's their right as the promotion to say, no, we're not willing to do that. We don't do that. Okay. It's hard when you do it for one fighter and then another fighter comes and says, I want to do this. And you go, we don't do that. Well, you did it. I watched it. Okay. So that makes it rough.
I agree. All right. Well, we've beaten that Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury fight to death. So that thing is done. We put a bow on that. And go to onlyfans.com/weighing-in, onlyfans.com/weighing-in. Subscribe to us over there. And it's free, you guys. And bring over and we're going to put over some extra content on there as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy it here. Go to onlyfans.com/weighing-in. What else you got for us, Dave?
All right, so I got some, speaking of heavyweights, I got some MMA heavyweight talk to get out of you guys right now.
We got some talk to do. we were a couple hours short on that one on our last show.
Well, so we did talk about the change to the interim fight, but Dana White's saying that we're going to have to wait until Jones and Stipe happens in order to get a unified title match. So Aspinall, oh damn it, I'm drawing a blank on his
Tom Aspinall and Sergei Pavlovich.
Yes, we're gonna have to. We're going to get that interim fight, right, just to fill the pay-per-view, get a title fight in the pay-per-view, sell the pay-per-view, all that stuff.
Makes sense.
And then we're going to have to wait to get the winner of this fight versus Jones and Stipe winner to unify the belt. So does that mean we defend the interim in there? Does that mean that we just go without a heavyweight to fight until Jones-Stipe happens and then we do a unification? I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on that piece. And then the second piece is Stipe is kind of bummed that he didn't get the title fight. He says, I don't know why I didn't get picked, which is fine. I understand they have a direction they want to go. I'm okay with that. Every guy in the division is tough. I definitely want to fight the biggest fish, which is Jon Jones. It wasn't my choice. It was theirs. And this was after Dana had said that they would not disrespect Stipe like that. So kind of a whole weird dynamic. Everything just feels off about this one. What do you guys think?
Go ahead.
All right, let's go to the first one.
Okay.
I sent you over this picture of the Stipe Jon Jones on the news. Pull that picture up.
Is this the old one?
Pull that. Yeah. Pull the picture up for John and I to look at.
He can't see it.
Oh, he can't see it. Okay, so hey.
No.
But you saw it though, right, John? Here,
it is, yeah.
You're gonna post it up there, Dave. Really, what it comes down to is, really, what it comes down to is. They've got to get to that fight as soon as possible. They can't afford for the winner of the interim title to fight Jon Jones or to fight Stipe and then have to turn around and then wait another 6 months or 5 months for that person to heal up and have that fight. So it just comes down to the old man photo here. This is the fight we're going to get by the time Jon Jones is back from his torn, what is it, bicep?
Pectoral.
Pectoral.
Pectoral tendon.
It's a shitty situation to be in, but this is what we're going to get when they get back. It's going to be this fight right here. And so, look, Stipe, I saw pictures of Stipe, man. He looks good. He looks lean down. It was basically this reminds me of a Tony Khabib fight. I mean, I know they got postponed several times, but there was the one that came out with the two of them being old like this. It was pretty funny. But let me go on to the second part real quick. Stipe, the reason why John, actually, I'm gonna have John talk about this. The reason why they don't want Stipe to fight for the interim title. Go ahead, John.
First off, his age.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. Okay. At that age, they're looking and saying, you're not the guy that, we can build on. Yes, you have been our champion before. And yes, you have the longest run as the heavyweight champion. And we want to use that to sell a fight, but we don't think that we can continue on selling fights with it and having people excited about it. So first thing is his age.
Yeah, I agree. And the scare part is I think for them is that he'll win the interim title. John's not back when he needs him to be, and he'll just walk away saying, well, I actually kind of won the title before I left. You just weren't ready to fight. Then it starts just causing a little bit of a haze over all that thing. Now, I think that Stipe is not that guy. He would fight if he was 45 years old.
Yeah.
The opportunity to fight Jon Jones and the amount of money he's going to make fighting Jon Jones. And I think that the UFC, because Jon still has a little bit left in the tank, more so than Stipe, they're going to really try to get that fight to happen. So then you can say, well, hey, Jon is now the greatest heavyweight of all time because he beat the greatest heavyweight of all. That's what they're going to say. Let's be real. That's what I know, but that's what Dana's going to say. His job, we just talked about Jon. Follow along.
I know.
We just talked about how Dana's job is to say that all of his guys, to sell,
Okay.
to sell his promotion.
I don't blame him.
How many times have you heard DC or anyone in the commentary booth go, he's the greatest fighter of all time, or she's the greatest fighter of all time, or this is the greatest fight of all time. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you just said that last fight. Like, what the hell? So, but Jon being who he is and the potential to fight, and only his second fight at heavyweight, beating Stipe, makes him now the greatest fighter of all time, or greatest heavyweight of all time.
I'll give him the greatest. I'll give him the greatest fighter of all time right now, but I can't give him the greatest heavyweight of all time. There's a difference.
Yeah, okay. For all the casuals at home, explain what the difference is.
The difference is you have to be somewhere and do something there that establishes you as that person that was better than everybody else that came before you. That is not an easy thing to do. Now, Jon has done that in the light heavyweight division, no doubt about it. And you take a look at, some of the people that fought in that division, he's walking over a lot of fucking guys that are legends. But Jon deserves it. He's done it. He has walked that walk. He's created that situation that puts him as the greatest light heavyweight to ever fight, possibly the greatest fighter to ever fight. To sit there and put him down, he's the greatest heavyweight that ever fought. He's won one fight at heavyweight. You're not the greatest heavyweight. Sorry. You can't say that. You can say he's the greatest fighter. I'm okay with that. But it just doesn't make sense to say if he beats Stipe, that doesn't make him the greatest heavyweight.
Well, when you're saying the greatest fighter, do you think it's like, I mean, it's hard to say because I think the most dominant, which you and I both agreed on, was Khabib. The most dominant fighter to ever step foot in the cage.
Most dominant fighter every time he stepped in the cage.
Yeah, every time he stepped in the cage was Khabib.
Yeah, I agree.
But then with Jon, how does that make him the greatest fighter then? Because of longevity?
Well,
and at the championship level.
At the championship level, the man has had, I want to say 15, 16
14,
championship
15,
fights.
Like Jesus.
15, 16, and he's never lost. Yep.
Yeah.
That right there does.
Bored. Yeah. And I honestly believe the fights that he did that were close, I think he was getting bored.
Yeah.
He'd ran through the division.
No doubt about it.
2 times over. Then you got the young blood coming up. He's like, look, I'm going to go to heavyweight where everyone's old there. A little bit slower, a little bit easier. No wrestling. I can just take him down, control him.
Well,
we're going to see. But look, I think this is going to be a fun fight. I think
this is a great matchup between Aspinall and Pavlovich. I mean, let's be honest. Sergei's got power. He's got that Francis Ngannou, pop. He can put your lights out. Let's just be honest. Aspinall is the better overall fighter as far as the skill set, the tools, the tool chest that he's got, and what he can go to. He's the better overall fighter, but he's got to get the fight where he needs it to be to get into that tool set. That's not easy. And we talked with Cain Velasquez, and Cain talked about, let's just say, I did train with Sergei, and he was one of my sparring partners. And let me tell you something. I realized when I was sparring with him, this guy's got something here. That says everything I need to know right there. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what I call it. There's the stamp of validation. Donk. It's there. So, this is going to be a great fight.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And then the fight that's taking its place, though, is Aspinall and
what?
Who's fight for the interim title? The interim title
Aspinall
is
and Pavlovich.
Aspinall and Pavlovich. Yeah, these two guys though. But I'm looking at these two guys. Aspinall, can he get this fight to the ground?
That's the question.
He can stand. I feel like he's the faster of the two fighters. Now he shouldn't stand very much. I think he'll be quick. He's quick twitched, and he can get in and get out.
In and out very well.
He could strike right into like some sort of takedown, whether it's a knee tap or it's a body lock, or if he's got to be cautious. He also does not want to be underneath him too much without an active guard. Oof. He's got to be threatening the submissions as much and as fast as possible.
I agree.
Or getting back to his feet. Because if Pavlovich starts raining down the punches, man.
You could not be a heavyweight on your back, accepting shots for very long. One's going to get through, and there's just too much power.
This is true. What else you got for us, Dave?
All right, I want to get your thoughts on Jorge Masvidal saying that he will fight in a boxing match in early 2024. We don't know who because he hasn't said, but it's going to happen early 2024 is what he says. What do you guys think about him coming out of retirement, and who would you think would be a good fight for this?
First off, I believe George. I do believe he's going to be boxing. Kind of know that he's going to be boxing, and I think that's fantastic. That's what he wants to look at. Masvidal has been just a dog. He started off in the backyard. Kimbo Slice is the one that brought him in to fight backyard brawls. He did that. He got into MMA. He had a fantastic career. He won the BMF title. Why not go to boxing? So my real question is: are you going to be the promoter too? Because he's got his game bred. Bare knuckle MMA he's been doing. He's had, other ones. Game bred boxing. Let's go.
The stories I've heard about George at American Top Team was that he was one of the only guys that would spar with Hector Lombard. Yeah. When Hector was there. It's because Hector was always trying to take people's heads off. Yeah. He was always kind of bullying people around. But George was to the point he was so good on the feet with his boxing and his head movement that it would piss Hector off. And he could actually touch Hector, make him miss and make him pay. And he would just kind of smile at him as he would do it. And it drove Hector crazy. But the two of them were two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
They were perfect for each other because George was cool with just standing and banging. And he was cool with outboxing him and using his technique. And Hector was a mat bully. Just kind of came in. But he was nice when he did it.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, oh, nice. Oh, it's okay. Always trying to be nice about it, but still trying to,
still
take
squash
your head
you.
off. Still try to squash you. Yeah. There's that, but I do believe that his technique has always been slick on the feet. Go back and watch his fight. One of the most masterclass performances I've ever seen in my life, hands down, was Jorge Masvidal versus KJ Noons. I swear, John, that fight, he beat KJ fucking from post to post.
And KJ was known as a boxer.
Yeah, he beat him with kicks. He beat him with boxing. He pieced him up. I thought it was gonna be a good fight. It wasn't a good fight. It was a one-sided beatdown. It was once he put him to the ringer. I mean, KJ walked out of there. His face was mangled. He looked like fucking, he had elephantitis in the lips, the face, the nose, all of that shit. He was fucked up. And George made it look easy. He made it look super easy. And
when he's on, he can do that.
Yeah, when he's on. And I go back and I look at his fight when he fought Nate. He was on. The boxing was on, and the masterful kicks. It was.
Nate was good. Nate was in that fight, but Nate took a ton of damage in that fight. Mm-hmm. And all the clean shots and all. George really didn't get hit much.
No,
You
no,
know,
he didn't.
He put on a beautiful performance that night, and that was that shows how good he can be and what he can do, when he's on. So, but
Yeah, I look at George. I think perfectly for him at the age at which he's at. I think boxing is good for him.
yeah,
I think that'd be a good match.
Yeah.
So whoever he decides to fight, which we know, but it's just a matter of time. We'll figure it out. You guys will all figure it out. It'll come to fruition. It'll come to light here pretty soon.
somewhere
So,
on the way.
yep, good fight though. You guys will love it. All right, next, what else you got for us?
All right, speaking of good fights, Whitaker, who normally isn't calling people out or really challenging on the microphone, is saying that he would like Usman to stick around at 85.
Ooh, I saw that.
I
saw that.
What do you guys think about that fight?
I love that. And I think it's a great call out. I think he's doing it out of respect. He likes Usman. He sees what Usman can do, but he believes he can beat it. Both guys have been champs. I think it's a great matchup.
Yeah,
Give Usman time to put on quality weight
yeah,
and get himself into being a middleweight fighter, carrying the proper kind of weight with a good camp. He can beat anybody. He's that
I
good.
agree. At 185, yes, because he's got something a lot of those 85 pounders don't have.
Yeah, he can
It's
wrestle.
top level wrestling. So there's that, and then I think also too, let's not forget that Robert Whitaker came from 170.
Yep.
He was a 70 pounder, came up to 85, put the weight on perfectly. Took him some time, and he had some ups and downs early in his career, and then it was all free sailing from there to get into the title shots. He's a talented fighter. He does bring some threat to Usman, but I think Usman, with the level of stand-up that he's acquired as of the last couple of years, his composure, he's got that fucking jab. He's probably got the best jab in the game right now.
He's got a really good jab. He does.
He's got a stiff,
Solid.
hard jab. It's extremely accurate, and he hides that right hand clean right behind that jab. And that's the key to throwing that stiff jab, is getting it out there, getting their head to snap back, and then once you've made that clear contact, as the left hand of the jab hand's coming back, that right hand's coming right behind it, so there's no time for them to actually see it coming.
Yeah.
And it's just bop, bop, right down. He's got it down perfectly, and now you just start watching him follow up with some hooks and some other stuff. I think 85 would be good, but I've got to go with you on the same thing, John. He's got to have to take time to put the weight on properly.
Yeah.
And you saw that. You saw that in the Usman fight, Chimaev fight with Usman. You saw that Chimaev had all that time to put the weight on. True. And Usman didn't. He came off the couch. And don't get me wrong, he walks around that weight, but it was like he also wasn't in great shape.
But still
great. He was in good shape.
Good enough shape to where he was the guy that wasn't tired in the end of the third round. Yeah. And if it went 5 rounds, I think he wins that fight.
John, the other story, Dave, pull it up as I sent it to you, was the Chimaev. Chimaev tore some ligaments in his wrist. Everyone kept saying his hand was broken. Yeah. I've had torn ligaments in my wrist and in my hand when I fought Benson. I understand the pain. I do understand. I was still able to hit with it. It just was disgusting to me because mine was torn from my thumb all the way up into my wrist, so my thumb would move around inside my skin. It looked like what are those little moles that look like a penis? That's kind of like what my thumb looked like when it slid up into like they hadn't chopped off the foreskin on my thumb. That's what it looked like.
That's a great picture you just painted. Just want to give it to you.
Those little like moles with the teeth. They have they're bald. They have like 1 or 2 little hairs that stick out like that.
Okay,
that's kind of what it looked like.
I'm going to give you one.
Your thumb looked like
we
a
got to
penis?
talk about one thing before we leave here. Your man was talking about your other man. Daniel Cormier was talking about Islam Makhachev and saying that the person that he should fight next is Conor McGregor.
I mean, he's doing what friends should do. I don't know, John.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were looking at it the same way that I was looking at it.
Yeah, John, you're not going to get me to go off of that. I'm sorry, brother, but look,
brother, do me a favor, brother.
I've got a lot of faults in my life, but and one of them is being a fucking homer to the T.
Oh, yes, you are.
I'm just that way, man. I'm just that way. But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's. I don't know what to say.
I love him.
What to say. Look, I think it'd be a good fight. I think it'd be fun, but I don't think Conor's taking that fight. I think Conor's gonna.
Conor can get to 155.
I think Conor's gonna have to follow through with the Michael Chandler fight. I think there's too much money's been spent on them promoting that fight.
Possibly.
That the UFC is like, look, dude, you're coming back. You're fighting him, and then after that, we'll give you the Nate, and then you're gonna ride off into the sunset, or we'll renegotiate or re-talk about what happens after that. Let's see where you're at. What is he? 2 or 3 losses in a row. He hasn't, you know what I mean? So the one last thing I want to talk about real quick is, Khamzat fight. Khamzat can't fight in the US because he doesn't have a visa. Sean doesn't have a passport. Where do they make that fight happen?
What do you mean he doesn't have a passport?
Doesn't have a passport. Refuses to get a passport. He doesn't want to fight anywhere else but in the States.
Oh, I love
and
him.
in Vegas.
I love
yes.
him.
But
can't
so
go anywhere.
where does that fight happen?
Well, if that fight is gonna happen, it's gonna look at the UFC is gonna do one of two things. They're gonna make sure that they get a visa in place for Khamzat to come into the country, or they're gonna take Sean, they're gonna pick him up, they're gonna take him to the damn fucking government building, post office or whatever, and they're gonna get him a passport so they can put him somewhere to fight Chimaev. They're gonna make it happen.
Sean's not fighting out of the country.
Well, we'll see.
If you're the champ does whatever the fuck he wants, right, Dave?
The champ does a lot when the fucking zeros go on the check.
That's true as well. That's true. All right, guys. Hey, we're going to wrap this up. Go to onlyfans.com/WayneIn. Also, go to WayneInMerch.com. Pick up some of our merch available there. It is freezing here in Texas. I hate to say it's fucking 48 degrees today. Dude. It was so cold today. Oh, man. Cool. But, John, take us away, man.
Hey, for everyone out there, one more time, I'm going to say, I was wrong. God damn it. Love what you did, Francis Ngannou. Josh was semi-right, but I'll give it to him.
He'll drag you down with you, man.
He did say if he can knock him down, it will change everything. And he got that knockdown. For everyone out there, thank you for listening to us, and we will see you.